Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're diving into just one source, actually, but it explores some really fascinating, maybe kind of unexpected ideas.
It's all about energy, groups, relationships, stuff like that.
Yeah, framed through these concepts the author calls everyday Tantra and egregores.
Right. It's a text that gives a pretty unique perspective, talks about universal life energy
Okay.
and how it might work, not just, spiritually up high, but right down here in our daily lives or interactions.
So let's unpack that. The mission today is really to get into the core ideas here. And the source uses the specific story to illustrate it all, which is interesting.
That's good.
We want to understand how these, well, seemingly complex energy ideas are supposedly playing out in what look like pretty normal situations, according to this source anyway.
Okay, so the source kicks off defining Tantra, but maybe not how everyone thinks of it.
How so?
It describes it basically as the universal energy of life.
Nah.
And it sees that energy as primarily psychosexual.
Psychosexual? So not just physical sex.
No, not just that. It's framed as this fundamental life force, deeply tied up with attraction, connection, even creativity.
Okay. And the source makes a point of separating this from, like, a higher tantra, something aimed at enlightenment.
Exactly. It introduces this idea of everyday Tantra and stuff.
Everyday tantra.
Yeah, and this, according to the text, governs the sort of visible and hidden rules of just normal day-to-day life.
Hidden rules.
Right. And it suggests that if you're not aware of these energy patterns underneath everything, well, you're kind of always playing catch-up at a disadvantage.
But if you do understand them.
Then you get a chance to see what's really going on, potentially navigate things differently.
So it's trying to make these energy dynamics sound quite practical, something you could, in theory, observe.
Precisely. And yeah, to make that case, it jumps right into a story.
Okay, let's hear it.
Right. So the first story, it's set in New York. It's about a client the author worked with named Svetlana.
Svetlana. Okay.
She was part of this really lively social group. Her husband, several other couples. They had this great thing going.
Fun, jokes, vacations together, that kind of thing.
Totally. A real sense of connection, camaraderie, until things got complicated.
Oh, the source calls it a curious situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Svetlana, who's described as a real leader, like central to the group, she starts developing feelings for one of the younger guys in the group. He was also apparently a key person, bringing a lot of the fun.
Okay, so two central figures.
Right. And they started meeting secretly, behind everyone's backs.
Sneaking around.
And the source really emphasizes that their connection, especially the sexual part, became incredibly intense. Svetlana apparently told the author it was like nothing she'd ever felt before, called it absolutely magnificent.
Wow. Okay, and this went on while the whole group was still hanging out.
Yeah, the affair continued, the group kept meeting, and the source says everyone either didn't notice or maybe more likely just chose to ignore it.
Convenient blindness, perhaps?
Perhaps. This carried on until the couple decided, right, they wanted to leave their families, try living together properly.
Okay, big step.
Huge.
Huh.
And that's when Svetlana went to the author, who seems to be some kind of consultant or energy analyst in this context.
Right, for advice?
Exactly. And based on analyzing their energies, the group's energy, the author made this pretty dramatic prediction.
What was it?
That moving in together would cause a massive scandal. And they'd have like 1 week, maybe less.
1 week of happiness?
1 week of potential happy coexistence before it all just exploded.
Did she listen?
Nope. She chose, as she put it, love. Left her husband, left her home.
And
she was back talking to the author about 6-7 days later, just like predicted.
wow.
Feeling, according to the text, completely drained, depressed, squeezed like a lemon.
Oh, man.
She admitted the conflict actually started even sooner. Day 3 of them living together.
Day 3.
Yeah. She acknowledged the author was right, couldn't figure out how she'd misjudged it so badly, just felt she'd ruined her whole life.
And the social fallout? Her husband?
Yeah, she was worried about that, obviously. Her husband had told her beforehand he'd never forgive her, told her to pack her bags.
Which is what happened after those 3 days.
Exactly. She ended up staying with a friend, totally cut off.
The group.
Gone. Vanished. Nobody from the old circle would talk to her. And her lover, now ex-lover, was in the same boat. Total isolation.
That sounds bleak. But what's really surprising is the advice the author gave her then, right? At her lowest point.
It is surprising. The advice was basically, go home, don't try to explain, don't justify, just go home, ask your husband for forgiveness, and resume life.
Yeah,
like before.
just like that. After all that,
Just like that. And maybe even more surprisingly, she did it.
she went back?
She went back, and her husband, the source describes him accepting her back through snot and tears. He took her in.
Incredible. And the other guy? The lover.
Same thing happened with him and his wife.
Yeah.
An equally unexpected reconciliation.
What?
Yeah. And then the group got back together.
The whole group, including Svetlana and the guy she had the affair with,
Yeah.
and their spouses.
The whole group. As if, the source says, nothing major had even occurred. They started meeting again, socializing again.
Wow.
The author apparently kept in touch with Svetlana for about a year after, and things were stable. She was back being the center of the group. Her almost ex-husband was there. The lover and his wife were there.
That is a truly bizarre outcome. Okay, so how on earth does the source explain this? The affair, the crash, the reunion, using its ideas of everyday Tantra and egregores.
Right. Well, this story is basically the setup for introducing the concept of the egregore.
Okay, what is it?
The source proposes that any group, any company, society, whatever,
Yeah.
if it's united by some common purpose or shared activity, it creates this shared energy field, an energy information field. That's the egregore.
A group energy field, okay.
And crucially, within this egregore, energy doesn't just float around randomly. It flows between people based on their kind of status or role within that group structure.
Like a hierarchy of energy.
Sort of, yeah. And the source argues that every egregore also has these poles, like male and female poles or positive and negative halves.
Okay.
And these poles are often embodied by specific people, usually the ones who best represent the group's core idea or energy, people with high energy potential, active energy centers, especially emotional ones.
Now, let me guess. In this story.
Exactly. Svetlana and her lover, according to the source, were precisely those people. They were embodying these essential energy poles for this specific group's egregore.
The alpha male and alpha female, energetically speaking.
That's how the source frames it, yes.
Okay.
Now, because the energy isn't spread evenly, these embodiments, these central figures, naturally gather the biggest energy reserves from the group field.
Okay.
So when Svetlana and her lover got together, the source claims their intense connection, their amazing sexual experiences.
The absolutely magnificent stuff.
Right. That wasn't just them. The source argues the entire group, all the other men and women in the egregore, were, in a sense, energetically feeding them, pumping energy into them.
Whoa. So the group energy made their private affair supercharged.
That's the claim, that this collective energy input is what led to experiences beyond the ordinary, linked to specific energy centers or chakras, as the source puts it.
And because they were meeting secretly at first?
And the rest of the group was still getting nourished by the overall egregore energy.
Everyone was happy.
Everyone was, as the source says, energetically full and cheerful. No immediate downside. Which might explain why people looked the other way. Everyone felt good.
Okay. So where did it go wrong then? Why the crash after only 3 days together?
Here's the source's key point. It wasn't being caught that ended the good fortune. It was their belief.
Their belief.
Their belief that they were the special ones, that their incredible feelings were purely down to their own amazing qualities, separate from the group. Their decision to basically prioritize their individual connection over the group structure that was fueling it.
So trying to take the energy and run, essentially.
Kind of. The source says this belief, this decision, caused a rupture, a break in the egregore structures that were supporting them.
And that's when everything fell apart.
Only then, the source argues, did the normal social and moral rules come crashing down. Suddenly, everyone was de-energized. The balloon deflated, as the source puts it.
And the group's reaction, the anger, wasn't just moral outrage.
According to the source, no, it was deeper, a kind of primal anger and hatred, because they, the rest of the group, had been robbed of their energetically full existence by this couple breaking the structure.
Wow. That puts a different spin on it.
It really does. And what's fascinating is how the source explains the reconciliation.
Yeah, how did that happen?
The source suggests the group had this intuitive, collective feeling. Despite the betrayal, they somehow knew that getting back to their good state, their good mood, depended on rebuilding the egregore, on getting the structure back online as quickly as possible.
So fixing the energy field was more important than hashing out the affair.
That's the argument. That conventional morality took a back seat to this energetic need. What happened, happened. The priority became restoring the group's energy flow.
Which is why maybe nobody brought it up afterwards.
Exactly. The source says it was natural nobody dwelt on it, because doing so, focusing on the betrayal, could risk breaking that fragile, newly reformed egregore structure all over again.
Hmm.
And the source wraps up this analysis with a really punchy line. Indeed, the retinue makes the king.
The retinue makes the king, meaning the leaders, Svetlana and her lover.
Their energy, their status, even the intensity of their connection wasn't inherent just to them. It was dependent on the collective energy of the group, the egregore they were part of. The group made them the energetic king and queen.
That completely flips the usual story, doesn't it? It puts the group's energetic structure first.
Absolutely. It suggests the collective structure was the main driver, and individual actions, specifically breaking away from that structure, directly caused the collapse and the negative consequences.
Until the structure was fixed and put first again.
Right. It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? About how much our own experiences, even really personal ones, might be tangled up with these invisible group dynamics. If you buy into this framework, of course.
It certainly raises a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that brings us towards the end of this particular deep dive. We've been looking at this source on everyday Tantra and egregores.
Yeah, we've explored its idea that groups can form these shared energy fields, these egregores.
Right, and how energy supposedly flows within them, how that flow might influence individual stuff, relationships. Like in that wild story about Svetlana.
It was quite the illustration, wasn't it?
Definitely. So, okay, what's the takeaway here? What does it all mean?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting to think about personally.
How so?
Consider this, just as a thought experiment.
Hmm.
How much of your own energy, your own sense of well-being, might be subtly connected to the collective energy of the groups you're in every day?
You mean like family, friends, work colleagues?
Exactly. Or even online groups, communities you're part of.
Yeah.
Any collective you interact with regularly.
And what happens if those group structures, the ones this source talks about as supporting an energetically full existence, what happens if they suddenly change or break down for whatever reason?
Yeah. Does that idea resonate at all? Does that phrase, the retinue makes the king, spark any thoughts about group dynamics you've seen or experienced? Where the group energy seems to lift certain people up, or where a break causes ripples for everyone?
It's definitely something to chew on, a different lens to look through.
For sure. Just something to mull over as you go about your day.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.